undo wrong. To grow up strong and undo wrong.
4 days after the GALEX incident, the crew of the Starship Defiance was ordered to return to duty. Ino and Prisban traveled to space dock together, and along the way, hundreds of Coalition officers shot them nasty looks, whispering behind their hands. Ino had a hunch as to what they were talking about, but her fears were not confirmed until she and Prisban were just 200 meters away from Docking Bay 94, where the Defiance was waiting. 2 alien officers broke away from their group and asked if they could speak to Ino. She quickly recognized them as being half-lifers, a race of toxoid people who were just barely compatible with environments that supported human life. The half-lifers could only be outside their environmental chambers for a few hours before they would have to reboard the nearest toxoid vessel for their own safety. "A moment, please, Ensign Esperanta," one of the half-lifers said. He was a lieutenant commander, judging by the insignia on his shoulder. "I just wanted to talk to you about the Betria." Ino felt her stomach drop. "I wanted to let you know that you have supporters aside from the humans," the half-lifer said. "There are hundreds of us who saw what happened, and we know Admiral Garnet is spouting nonsense. You have friends among the toxoids and lithoids and plantoids. Wouldn't be much of a coalition otherwise." Ino thanked the toxoid for his kind words and turned to leave, but he called her back and whispered into her ear, "One more thing. We heard someone tried to couple with you against your will. Do not be afraid to report such an assault to my people. We have ways of dealing with such criminals, and we will not show mercy on those who would defile our friends and allies." Ino was in a much better mood when she arrived aboard the Defiance. She knew the vessel would soon be departing the starbase to rejoin the ongoing war game, and she wanted to spend the remaining downtime in the galley, but she would not get the chance. "Ensign Esperanta, report to the bridge," a voice said over the ship's intercom. Ino and Prisban changed course, going up to Deck 1. As soon as they opened the door to the bridge, a storm of clapping reached their ears. Ino was blinded by camera flashes for a moment before a hand pulled her onto the bridge. Dozens of officers and civilians were crammed onto the bridge, far more than the little space could hold. Ino could see news cameras, soldiers, and reporters. Then, all of a sudden, Admiral Ruel grabbed Ino by the shoulder and steered her forward. "Sorry to spring this on you," he whispered, "but the powers that be insisted this be done quickly. We had no choice but to surprise you." "Surprise me with what?" Ino started to ask. The Admiral told Ino to stand between 2 members of an honor guard. On Ino's left shoulder, a soldier carried the flag of her home country, Argentina. It was folded up in a respectful triangle, and Ino could see a shiny object placed atop it. Ino realized she had walked into an impromptu ceremony, one that had been planned out in a very hasty manner. She could tell the ceremony was rushed because Admiral Ruel was visibly nervous. He stumbled over his lines. Attention to orders," Ruel called the room to quiet. "Today, we are gathered to honor the exemplary service of Ensign Ino Esperanta of the United Nations military during the GALEX exercise. First, we have a message from Esperanta's hometown, the southernmost city on Earth." A hush fell over the room as 2 holograms appeared in the center of the bridge, just in front of the captain's chair. Ino bit her lip to hide her sudden feeling of intense rage. 2-dimensional recreations of her parents now stood across from her on the bridge. Rajano and his wife, Glorinda, were dressed in the formal attire they normally wore for political functions, complete with the green and white ribbon of the Esperantist movement tied around their wrists. Glorinda had done up her hair with many golden curls, just the way Venka liked to do. "On behalf of the people of Ushuaia, we present to our esteemed daughter This medallion of achievement, Rajano said in Spanish. Glorinda repeated the message in Esperanto and then English. At the same time, the UN Honor Guard presented Ino with the folded Argentine flag and the gold medallion resting on top of it. The head side of the medallion depicted the official insignia of Tierra del Fuego, 4 penguins standing on a sunlit shore, while red flames and the blue outline of a bird surrounded the scene. The tail side contained the city motto of Ushuaia, Fin del Mundo, Principio de Todo. Ino breathed a sigh of relief. The hologram of her parents had vanished as soon as she took the Ushuaia medallion. Admiral Ruel took a small green box from an assistant. Ino noticed that several news reporters and TV camera crews had tried to take a step closer to her, but were being pushed back by MPs. Prisban was offering to help the MPs. Admiral Ruel opened the box and withdrew a silver medal attached to a blue and gold ribbon. He pinned the medal to Ino's chest while reciting the following words. By order of the UN Parliament, Ensign Esperanta is decorated with the Interstellar Service Cross for meritorious action during the GALEX exercise that improved the overall strength and readiness of the coalition. Then Admiral Ruel took a step back, winked at Ino, and whispered, Well done. Someone further up the chain of command has a very strong opinion about your actions against the Betria. So I've noticed, Ino whispered back. Can I go hide in my quarters yet? Not yet, the Admiral said. He pulled his smartphone out of his pocket, checked the time, swore quietly, and then put it back. I got the timing wrong. We're going to stand here awkwardly for the next 30 seconds. He turned around and addressed the news reporters. One moment, please. A short delay. Ino wondered just what part of this ceremony required such careful timing, but a moment later she got her answer. A man's voice suddenly blared over the intercom. Priority 1 communications request from UN headquarters coming in on main channel. Accept the request and make the connection, said the voice of Commander Tulani. Ino could not see where he was. A moment later, the hologram emitters began to work again. However, before a coherent shape could appear, the male voice spoke again. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of Earth. Ino could not help it. She gasped. The holographic image of a European man appeared just in front of the captain's chair. Andrew Horner was tall and very attractive, with a bright beaming smile that enraptured anyone who saw it. He wore a European Union flag pin over his chest, right next to a slightly larger United Nations flag. Out of the corner of her eyes, Ino saw that several women were swooning. For the shortest moment, Ino felt the urge to do the same, but she resisted it. Ino had a type, and President Horner was close to it, but ultimately off the mark. Good morning, President Horner spoke in a thick Welsh accent. Men and women of the United Nations military. Or perhaps I should call you Red Fleet. I want you to know that your government has been watching you closely these past few days. We are proud of you. You have strengthened the coalition and presented the best view of Earth to the entire galaxy. Continue your exemplary service. Now, there's someone I should speak to directly. President Horner turned to face Ino. No one likes being told about their weaknesses, Esperanta, the president said, much less having their weaknesses laid bare for others to see. But your actions have allowed the coalition to acknowledge and eliminate a weakness that could have been used against us. You chose the hard right over the easy wrong. Keep making those hard choices and persevere through the pain, Esperanta. There's always a reward at the end of the crucible for people like you. Now then. President Horner raised his right hand, palm facing up. A three-dimensional image appeared in his hand. It was a military rank insignia, and underneath it were the letters LTJJ. G. Ino gasped again. She was going to be promoted by the president himself. Repeat after me, the president said. Ino puffed out her chest, showing off her rapidly building sense of pride as she recited the oath of the UN military. I solemnly swear to devote my life and ability in defense of the United Nations of Earth, to defend the Constitution of Man, and to further the universal rights of all sentient life, from the depths of the Pacific to the edge of the galaxy, for as long as I shall live. The president brought up his hand and saluted Ino. By my authority as president of the United Nations of Earth, Ensign Ino Esperanta is promoted in the UN Navy to the rank of Lieutenant Junior Grade. Congratulations. The war game was over before Ino knew just how fast the time flew by. 2 weeks gone in a whirlwind of mock battles. The mood and morale aboard the frigate Defiance could not be higher. Victories came quickly to her crew, defeats were short-lived. And when the time came for the exercise to end, every member of the crew remained at space dock to send off their ship in style. 2 space tugs came to retrieve the decommissioned Defiance and take her away to the scrapyard. When the frigate started to strain against the tow cables, Ino, Prisban, and Commander Tulani cheered loudly, calling on Defiance to resist its imminent doom just a little longer. Eventually, the Defiance was pulled out of space dock and into the darkness of space. She sure was a good ship, Ino said, her hand on Prisban's shoulder. Farewell, Defiance, Commander Tulani said. I hope the shipbreakers have a really hard time pulling you apart. Give 'em hell. A beeping sound caught Ino's attention. Prisban slipped a hand into his pocket and retrieved his smartphone. I've got my transfer orders, Prisban said, looking at the screen. Junior Tactical Officer on the UNS Almagier. It's a missile frigate patrolling near the Tianavek wormhole. That's excellent, Ino said. I'll get to see you as I pass by. Pass by? Prisban repeated. Where are you going? Ino unlocked her smartphone and said, The president was right. Good things come to those who make hard choices. I got the ship assignment I wanted. The message on Ino's phone was from a secure account that belonged to Admiral Ruel. It said, Ino Esperanta, Lieutenant Junior Grade, UNN. You are ordered to duty aboard the UNS Marathon, an Azrael improved class battleship, carrier command ship configuration, assigned to the Phoenix Fleet. You will report to Chief Tactical Officer Lieutenant Commander Arshad Al-Qazi at Sirius Starbase no later than May 2nd, 2390. Signed, James Ruel, Commanding Officer, UNAF Officer Training Program. Prisban gave Ino a wide smile. Congratulations, he said. Best of luck to you. I really mean it. Maybe we'll see each other again someday. I hope so, Ino replied. You heard all about me, and I never got to ask about your friends. Oh, the galaxy's full of wonders, Prisban said. Who knows? Maybe we will meet up again. You seem like the sort of person my friends would like. Sota Beninato asked the bartender for another drink. He had arrived at Tianavek Starbase for his new duty assignment 3 days early. This was no accident, but by design. He wanted some time to study the nearby wormhole, to make sure his custom technology would not be damaged going through it. Now that he was here, though, Sota felt slightly foolish for worrying so much. His homemade exoskeleton would be fine, and the microtech implants in his muscles and brain were made of materials that would not be affected by the wormhole. Sota killed his spare time by drinking and watching the big television at the bar. There were plenty of news stories to keep up with. Fiona Washington, the Prime Minister of Earth, was expected to resign this week after a long and drawn-out scandal. President Horner was already arranging for her replacement. The Destican Astral Fellowship was accusing Earth at a distant planet called Savasia of giving aid and comfort to escaped slaves. Lately, however, he had taken to watching the Military Times network. A curious story had caught his attention. "Well, I'll be. That's my old ship," Sota mused. Sota had done a tour of duty aboard the Defiance near the beginning of his military career. To see the old frigate in the headlines made him feel good. "All of my upgrades to the drive and cloaking sail must have held up," Sota told himself. Then he saw video of Ino Esperanta and learned about the role she played in the GALEX incident. "Huh," Sota muttered. "She's kinda cute. And smart enough to outplay a Zelensky battleship? A real catch." Sota shook his head and downed another beer, reluctantly admitting that he thought highly of Ino Esperanta. She had done incredible things with his old ship. If Sota ever met Ino, he would make sure to buy her a beer. Elodie stood in the back of the barracks as her fellow Space Marines watched the tiny television affixed to the wall above her bunk. "UN officials have expressed outrage at the discovery of a Destican spy ship prowling the GALEX war games," the anchor was saying. Elodie scoffed. The other Space Marines, 5 total, were members of her squad. Elodie was the smallest and lightest of the group, but she was the leader, and for good reason. "Necroid cowards," Raval said. He was a large Nepalese man whose face was scrunched in a permanent scowl. "There's no way this goes anywhere but war," Elodie commented. "I always knew the rotting corpses would shoot first," grumbled Durand. She was a French woman, much larger than Elodie. Durand turned to one of her squaddies and punched him in the arm. "Hey, Yuhan! You grew up in Destican territory. You should have said something, border brat." The Marine called Yuhan put up his fists and made a threatening move toward Durand. "What did you call me?" he seethed. Elodie raised her voice and, somehow, despite her tiny size, managed to overpower everyone else. "Not today!" Everyone fell silent and turned their eyes towards Elodie. "I will not have you disrespecting a fellow soldier. He's got as much earth in his blood as the rest of us," Elodie admonished her troops. Durand hung her head. "Marines!" Elodie yelled. "Who do we fight for?" "Humanity!" the group chanted in unison. "Who do we fight for?" Elodie repeated. "Humanity!" "Everyone suit up. We need to train," Elodie said, keeping both eyes on Durand. "War is coming." Ryland Quinn followed his mentor through the corridors of a brand-new starship. Admiral Nareem had to slow his pace to allow Ryland to keep up. "I am truly sorry that your first visit to the homeworld is under such austere conditions," Admiral Nareem said. "I do not blame you," Ryland said. "It is a time of crisis. We must all do our duty." "It is your strong sense of duty that gives me confidence," Admiral Nareem told Ryland. "There is no other captain in our navy I would trust with this mission." They arrived at the bridge. Admiral Nareem stepped through the doorway first and called for the attention of the bridge crew. "By my authority as the commander of the Home Defense Fleet," Nareem said, "I hereby name Captain Quinn the new commanding officer of the cruiser Adimash. Computer, activate Echelon Protocol." As Ryland stepped onto the bridge, a blue spotlight illuminated him. "Acknowledged," a computerized voice said. "Change of command recognized. Command authority unlocked for Captain Ryland Quinn. Welcome aboard the Adimash, sir." Ryland looked around the bridge. He spoke a few reassuring words to the crew, and then asked the Admiral to speak with him in the captain's ready room. "They look a little young," Ryland said, referring to the bridge crew. "I think I have more ritual implants than all of them combined." Ryland and Nareem looked at one another for a moment, taking stock of each other's wide array of cybernetic implants. It is like you said. This is a crisis, Admiral Nareem said. Ritual and personal satisfaction gives way to duty in these times. Except for those times when personal satisfaction and duty align, Ryland said. I love my job. I won't pretend otherwise, the Admiral smiled. And you, as a starship captain now, have a much greater ability to lobby for the creation of an alliance between our people and the human-led coalition. I know you do nothing else in your downtime. I look forward to using that greater ability, Ryland replied. Of that, I have no doubt, the Admiral said. Though I beg you to remember, your mission supersedes any of your other goals, including your lofty dreams of alliance. Delegate held perfectly still while Azarin moved about her laboratory with the speed of a hurricane. He turned this way and that as the plantoid woman busied herself about her work. Oh, my dear guest, I feel as though I am ignoring you. You must think me a terrible host, Azarin commented as she carried a tray of seeds to a nearby microscope. On the contrary, Delegate said, your work is important, and I did promise to wait until you were in a better position to have a substantial conversation. Well, I fear you and I may both have to wait longer, Azarin said. They say this planet could come under Destican invasion any day now, and I am so close to a breakthrough. I am also cognizant of a time limit, Delegate said. The political crisis on Earth has reached a tipping point. The resignation of Prime Minister Washington is imminent, and President Horner is expected to appoint a Prime Minister who is even more hostile to unshackled synthetic life forms. My people are in danger, and you have the ability to save them. Again, I must correct you, little android. Azarin huffed and puffed, lifting a container of liquid onto a shelf. The ability you refer to is untested, an unknown quantity. We don't know if I can do what you ask. Empirical data suggests this is false. You do have the ability to terraform barren planets into life-sustaining worlds. You simply lack the means and support network required. Azarin paused in her work. Unfortunately, my metal friend, your people are a step away from becoming the next generation of stateless refugees in the galaxy. You don't have a way to provide the means and support network you speak of. That does not erase our need, Delegate said. However, I have been authorized to make compromises and deals to avoid impasse. I simply require you to engage in negotiations instead of avoiding direct confrontation with me. Azarin stopped her feverish movement and faced Delegate. The android was sitting on a stool, looking rather childlike. Nothing gets past you, does it? Azarin asked. Then spoke as Delegate opened his mouth. Don't answer that. It's rhetorical. I constantly underestimate you synths. All right. Fine. I am delaying, putting you off, procrastinating, all those other words you said last night. It's just... Azarin looked out the window. She could see that efforts to evacuate the Savanti capital city were proceeding at an alarming pace. I fear we will witness a great many changes around the galaxy before I get the chance to test my theories. The holographic likeness of the Destican ruler towered over the head of Iraj Zilthalin, who lay prostrate on the floor, his forehead and horns touching the cold metal. Oh, my father and delight of my eyes. Iraj spoke in a sulky tone that suggested he did not mean what he said. May you live forever, but you have destroyed me. If you had not delayed in your response, I might have spirited the savage girl away and onto my ship before I was forced to flee from that primitive outpost. Nivella Arakmakas, the ruler of the Destican Astral Fellowship, peered down at his son. The hologram had rendered the novella as being nearly 60 feet in height, so that Araj appeared as but a lump in the ground before his toe. "You have forgotten, my son, that when my reply came, I forbade you from abducting the primitive girl. My armies and fleets, great though they be, are not in an advantageous position against the humans at this time. We would have suffered by your deeds a great many defeats before the final victory." Araj could not contain his impatience or contempt. "But I want her!" Araj cried out, daring to take his eyes off the floor and look at his father's face. "I must have her. I shall die if I do not have her. I must have the savage girl." "And again I forbid it," the novella replied. "My son, you have taken a majority of the humans found in our territory for your experiments with the Chamber of Elevation. Does that not satisfy you?" "Not anymore," Araj seethed. "Those primitives are colonists, unremarkable in comparison to what I saw in Tau Ceti. They are uncivilized. But the girl from Tau Ceti, she was both beauty and beast. The very contradiction blinded my senses to all the universe but your own splendid words and intentions. It was the will of the universe. Destiny itself carried me on the solar winds to Tau Ceti." The novella took a deep breath. "My son, I have no doubt that you have fulfilled the will of the universe by encountering this primitive, and I do not doubt that you have felt the inexorable pull of destiny." Araj looked up hopefully. "Listen to my will, son, for I find that it will align with your own," the novella said. "My invincible forces will be ready for war against the humans and their coalitions soon. When that time comes, this primitive you call the savage girl will fight. If the universe truly wills you to have her, then you will find her on the field of battle. Capture the savage and bring her to the home world. Send her into the Chamber of Elevation. Once she has become one of us, I will give her to you to do with as you see fit, as a reward for serving me in war. Do you understand?" "As clearly as I understand the will of the divine," Araj said. "Your will be done, father. May you live forever." This concludes the story of the GALEX incident. The story of Ino Esperanta will continue in Unsung Paragons of the Forgotten War. This is Macavity 116. We hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of the GALEX incident, narrated by the author. This work is copyrighted 2024 by Macavity 116. Stellaris was developed and published by Paradox Interactive. All characters in this story were created by Macavity 116, copyright 2024. All artwork in this story was created by Leonardo AI. The song Hero was created by Macavity 116 using generative AI hosted by Suno.com and is a cover of the 2005 song Hero, written and performed by All Insane Kids.
In your heart, grow up strong and done you wrong.